Well, hey, everybody. My name is Michael McCormick, and you are listening to the Superintendent Hot Seat, where bold superintendent leaders share real stories behind their most difficult challenges and decisions as they work to improve student safety and wellness, and really work to try to get kids in a place where they feel comfortable coming into our schools. And today, I'm joined by our guest, Dr. Barbara Mullen. Barb, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Excited to connect with you today.
So, I'm just going to get right to it. If you had to rethink student wellness in your district, whether it's student anxiety, depression, bullying, violence, what would you do? And let's kind of layer in the fact that this is a new school year we're coming into. So how are you and your team thinking about student wellness?
I have a lot of very strong and personal feelings about community wellness in general. And so I don't think our students are disconnected from the adults that serve them, from their families, from our greater community members who are just a part of our community, but maybe not parents or staff, because we all engage and intersect and interact with each other. So, a lot of what I've been thinking about over the past, I would say 5 years for obvious reasons, but even more so as we start this year, and as I start my superintendency, is really that healing centered approach to supporting students and adults. A lot of times people talk about trauma informed instruction, but I really lean towards healing centered approaches, and that really is more an asset orientation for kids and for adults too. So we've done a lot of work in being able to build communities of practice in the previous 2 years. From my office, the superintendency, with the executive leadership team, our building leaders and our district office leaders, and now even cascading into our schools, where adults can do things together that really help build a North Star towards their why and their purpose. And when adults really feel connected to the work, when they feel a sense of efficacy around the work, they begin healing those parts of themselves that might have been harmed in the work, right? Like a really kind of tough principal, or, a really hardline administration that didn't listen, or maybe even some really challenging students that just, they didn't feel fully equipped to be able to serve. And so when we created the structures this past year, so that when adults come back, they had some set communities of practice within the district and buildings, we began to create the space for that healing to occur. And then that does create the conditions for the youth to be able to do that same piece as well. We believe in creating those structures for adults, those peer-to-peer learning communities, being able to have the youth be a part of my superintendent student advisory council, um, and then really be in community with adults in a way that is powerful, that's healing, and that's important. One fun fact that we're doing and starting this year is we have a partnership with the county and the Alliance of Aging Citizens. And so we are holding like the first ever aging adults hiring fair, because we are bringing in community members who care very deeply about public schools, who care very deeply about students, and have so much more to give, even though they are officially retired out of the workforce. And so, creating spaces where students can learn, can share what their experiences are, that is healing. It isn't direct service mental health clinical support. We have a lot of that. We've invested in clinicians. We've done universal screeners. As we gear up, we have data dashboards that tell us just in time support and interventions for kids who are in crisis. But when we think about the totality of wellness in a community, and how do we know that the learning environment is well? Or, as I like to say, how do you know the soil is rich for growth? We talk about really building those communities where people can come together and really learn from each other. So that's what we're excited about for this next year.
Well, this is exciting news. And I think you're approaching the work in just the right way. I've often felt like, sometimes we hear these little quips like, feed the teachers, otherwise they'll eat the children for
Oh,
lunch and
that's an
this
old
kind of
school
thing.
book.
But that's like old, like I'm revealing my age,
Yeah, no, I got it.
But
That was my first book.
but but I think I do think there's wisdom in that, because when the adults feel a sense of belonging and a connectedness, and here's a big one, when teachers feel like they've got a seat at the table in the
Mhm.
decisions that are being made around the district, I think that really it creates a space where there's a psychological safety that exists. But I think it also kind of reorients away from an accountability type feeling more to a responsibility type feeling, and that efficacy I think that you spoke about. Now, are your students back to school, or are they yet to come?
No, so shout out to my sister Soup in Indianapolis who's starting August 1st, Alicia Johnson. I'm like, wow, you're back early. Or my brother Soup in Atlanta, Devon Horton, who I think they start like Monday the 4th. God love y'all. We go back September 2nd. Now
Okay,
we
so
don't get a
you've got
summer because we're done at the end of June, but we
yeah.
come back September 2nd.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and same. I'm out in California, and first and second week of August, a lot of districts are going back. So
Okay.
you've got a little time on your hands yet, as you're
Yeah.
thinking about welcoming your staff and your students into the 25-26 school year. Have you planned something? I mean, is it going to be a big party in your district where people come back? And, I always think dancing is a good way to get people engaged and feeling good about the beginning of the school year. Do you have a kind of a kickoff ceremony
We
that you
do.
do?
So we actually just had that meeting right before I hopped on here with you. I like to cascade the learning time together. So I start at the beginning of July with a board retreat, and then I do my cabinet retreat, and then next week we have all of district leadership team week where we're doing learning together. And they all have their department retreats next week, and then we kind of go radio silence, like the middle week of August, so that people can either get their last vacation in, or they can get into their buildings, or they can do like a new teacher orientation, or some of the things that you transition events for kindergartners or high school kids, things like that. So we leave everybody alone, and then on the 26th, that last week before school starts, we bring everybody back for a kickoff. So all staff kickoff, and it is going to be fun. Our theme is level up this year. This is the second full year of our strategic plan, and so we did a lot of like, these are the things we're working on, these are the things we're doing, and we're really leaning into coaching and capacity building for everyone in the district. Doesn't matter if you're a food service worker, if you're on cabinet, everybody gets to feel supported, cared for, and loved through like on time feedback, because we're leveling up for the kids. If we expect the kids to make a full year of growth, then adults should be making a full year of growth in some capacity, right? So you should be better next year than you were when we started the year. So we have a
Amen.
like Nintendo theme about going up different levels. We've got T-shirts with like game controllers. I'm also a Zennial or an old millennial, so obviously I have like Super Mario Brothers as my theme song, and it's all about leveling up and like having a great time. I got a T-shirt cannon. I like spout out T-shirts, so it's
Hey,
gonna be fun.
Barb, you're speaking my love language. I think there's something to this. I mean, I think some people look at these things and they might see them as a waste of time or just a bunch of fluff. But I think I got so much out of bringing the whole team together. Um, and we would have we'd get into one of the gymnasiums of our big high schools, and it was a full on like party with a
Yes.
capital P. And one of the other things that we did, well, a couple of things. You're making me think back here. One of the things we did is we always highlighted our staff. And like we had a custodian, an elementary school custodian for 30 years. He was a custodian and went back to school and became a teacher.
Love it.
And boy, talk about just I mean, I could get emotional right now thinking about this, and
Mm,
just it's almost like our job as superintendent is to hold up a big mirror and reflect back all of this positivity that's happening. And it's the one time where everybody in the district gets to see everybody face to face,
right, right.
and so in some ways it's like a big family reunion.
Yeah,
And when we dance together and we have fun and we spotlight people, um, it almost reminds me of, like, a high school pep rally
very
where
much
you're
so.
right, and
Yep.
where you're really generating a lot of positive energy, for people, and feed them. I hope you're feeding people
Yeah, they get
too, and that's a
breakfast. We
yeah,
pick them
and
up in
that's
the buses, so and we also have a spirit so we give them a theme, and then each school and department does like a spirit, whatever their spirit kind of cheer is. So it is like a pep rally. And some last year they really went. I had someone dressed up in one of those inflatable like costumes as a unicorn and confetti, and I mean they really went all out. So that was something new we added, and I'm like, let's do something interactive. I don't need to get up there and talk for longer than 5 to 7 minutes, if that. And we just have a good time. So it's short to the point, and then they get into their buildings.
yeah. I love that. I think, I hope for the listeners here of the Hot Seat podcast that they will think about some of these things and kind of having that pep rally type of feel where everybody gets together. The other thing, and this is something I stole from Joe Sanfilippo out of
Oh,
Wisconsin.
yeah.
Joe's great, and I started doing a raffle. Well, it's probably not. It was probably more like an opportunity drawing for legal reasons,
Right.
but I would select, and we would put all the employees' names kind of in a computer system, and it would be the big wheel. And so this was certificated folks, classified folks, and I would commit to do somebody's job for a day
Oh, wow.
and give them a day off with pay. And so over the years, I was grounds, maintenance, security. I worked in a middle school kitchen, and I'm just thinking about my experience working for a day in the middle school kitchen because I had to go get my food handler's permit, and so there was the whole thing, so I was a safe server and all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But the amount of love that I experienced in the kitchen with our workers preparing meals for kids
Hmm.
was something that it was just it's something that I'll never forget. And the other thing that I discovered in working in that cafeteria for a day was that our cafeteria workers have contact with just about every kid every day.
That's right.
And there's a level of, even though it's a fast interaction, the cafeteria workers could notice if a student was maybe not having a great day or a
Hmm.
little off as they were coming through the lunch line, and that, if I had I not had that experience, I don't know that I would really have such a deep respect and value for the work that's being done by our food services workers, and having that just quick interaction with our kids. Because let's face it, there are kids that may not have a single face-to-face interaction with their teacher as they're moving throughout the day,
Hmm.
because there just may not be that opportunity for interaction there. But anyways, um enough talk about me. This is a show about about you, Barb. So
Oh.
are you thinking about ways that you're welcoming kids back onto the campus for that first day of school, and is that something that you and your site leaders are strategizing?
So I leave that to the site leaders. I set the vision that every student should feel welcome. They should see themselves reflected in the environment. So whatever you have on the wall, whatever music you're playing, whatever the theme is for the first day, uh, the kids should feel like they belong in the schools. and that the schools anticipate them. So I often talk about how to make students feel like they belong, or how to do culturally affirming, communities and environments. And sometimes people might do culturally affirming images or people on the wall, but a lot of times it is being visible, being present, calling a student by their name, saying, "Hey, how's that sibling?" Because you knew they had a sibling pass up to the next grade. Really just looking kids in the eyes, being clear that you are ready for them. And kids notice that those things. They come and tell me all the time, "Dr. Mullen, there's no toilet paper in the bathroom." I don't care how many pictures of Martin Luther King you have on the wall, a kid wants toilet paper in the bathroom. That shows that you're ready for them. You knew they were coming and you knew they were going to have to use the bathroom. So,
Yeah.
there are some things that are really, really great. And there's some things that are just small that kids notice, and they're like, they're ready for us. They care about us. We're here. Teachers who do those little tiny things. Both of my kids are in the schools as well. And so they notice when, they come and their name's on the desk already, or there's a pencil case and there's 2, 3 pencils in there for them already. Um, a lot of times our building leaders do the yard signs, welcome back students. And so they my building leaders are phenomenal people, and I often say you're with your students, say for the new cohort of kids coming in, every single day. You know them intimately, you know what they need to feel like they belong. And so if I were to try to give them any ideas, it'd fall flat because I'm not there every day. But I trust them to really show the kids that they feel welcome. And when I go, I do my world tour the first day of school, and then I kind of stay out of their hair to get their systems down pat. But when I go, the office staff are smiling, they're ready for families. Parents are sometimes frustrated because maybe they're at the wrong school, or they were late, or things happen, or baby left their lunch. And they're just they're such a calm presence in being able to take a day that feels really hectic, and it's just quiet. It's just smooth. Parents come in, they feel welcomed. Kids come in. My kindergartners, oh my gosh, their worlds are just turned upside down because what is this huge place I'm in now? Lots of tears, a lot of tears on the first day. And so I tend to spend a lot of time in the pre-K and K classrooms on the first day, giving out extra hugs. Because sometimes I don't know, I just look like someone's aunt, I guess. And so they're like, "I don't know if you're my aunt, but you look like her. I want a hug." So I'm giving out a lot of hugs.
Yeah, I can so appreciate that. And I have twin girls, and one of them's a kindergarten teacher.
Oh,
And so I get to live vicariously. And these kids, with me spending my career in education, they swore to me they would never go into education because I drug them to all kinds of stuff when they were younger. And today, one of them's a kindergarten teacher and the other one's a high school counselor. And
That's what they know how to do best. That's it.
yeah,
They just know how to do it. They're like, I could do this.
yeah, I love it. And I love the fact that you make yourself available for extra hugs, because I think that's that sense of connection that brings safety for kids, especially when their whole world has been disrupted. It's like, I've been at home or I've been in a familiar place, wherever that is. And all of a sudden we're in an unfamiliar place with, a lot of stranger danger around. And, how do they cope with that? And I'm sure, like your schools, every so often you have those runners, and you got, our building administrators, if they're smart and they've been around a while, they're wearing a good pair of tennis shoes on the first day. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, Dr. Mullen, let's pause here for a quick 30-second break
Okay.
for a message from our producer, School Beat, which is formerly MooZoom. And it's the only SEL platform both educators and students truly love, with low lift, Netflix style, choose your own adventure lessons featuring real kids navigating real life challenges, daily wellness check-ins, and real-time insights into what students really feel. School Beat is where every heart has a voice and every voice has a beat.
Creating a safe, supportive environment is key to our learners' success. With nearly every district prioritizing social emotional well being to reduce suspension rates, decrease chronic absenteeism, and improve academic performance, the challenge is how to achieve this without adding to your staff's workload. Discover Muzoom, a groundbreaking student-driven platform that uses real-world choose-your-own-adventure bite-sized movies to make SEL engaging for students, easy for teachers to teach, and more cost-effective for districts to implement. Check out Muzoom today.
All right. Well, here we are. Welcome back. We've got a great guest on today, Dr. Barbara Mullen. And Dr. Mullen, let's shift gears a little bit into the second half of the show, and let's talk about you. And and I want you to start from birth and just take us all the way. No, I'm totally
I was
teasing.
going to say, I'm ready. I am ready.
You know, it's funny. I mean, I used to say that in an interview sometimes. As I was interviewing principals or other, cabinet type members, executive team members, because when you learn about where somebody grew up and the things that they either faced or triumphed over as children, I think we underestimate that there's a little boy and little girl in each of us. We may be in these old bodies now, but there is, I think, something to that. But I want to know, what are the things that you do to care for your own wellness, just general wellness, as you're in this high pressure, high stress job?
Yeah. So it's funny you talk about the little people inside of us because, again, with this healing centered leadership approach, this frame that I've really created through this work and this research starts with personal healing. So there's personal healing, there's interpersonal healing, and then organizational healing. But the personal piece is not it's not a destination, so you don't wake up and go, I'm healed, like, because uh you will you'll have to come back and do it again, right? This world is full of harm in lots of different ways. And even our jobs, right? They're stressful. People say really nasty things about us in the world. And even though we should be like, those are just people, they don't know me personally, don't take it personally, it still hurts. It can still be harmful. Things can get stressful and physically, or just mentally or emotionally or even spiritually, this job puts us in the crossfires of a lot of like harmful darts, whether they're intended or unintended. And so a part of my wellness and kind of ongoing healing, just as a person who's constantly in the spotlight for some of these kind of harmful exchanges, is to really, one, start with my own sense of self and identity. And I know when we talk about doing social emotional learning for kids, we talk about self-awareness as one of those competencies. And as an adult, as a kid, it's kind of like, do you like vanilla ice cream? Do you like chocolate ice cream? Do you work better in the morning? Do you work better at night? As an adult, it really is, what are some of those things that help you slow down? When we're in the superintendent seat, your day, you look at it and it is just like stacked on your calendar. And you're moving from one complex problem or process, even if it's exciting, like planning kickoff. There's logistics, you're making sure everyone's okay. And the way I lead in particular, with compassionate and love and healing centered and humanistic approaches, I'm always asking, how does that land for you? Do you have what you need? Do you feel good about that? What could be doing better? What is your preference? How does that, so I'm always sitting as close and as proximal to someone else's perspective as possible. But what it does is it takes a lot of emotional energy from me. Some people don't do that because they don't like the feeling. They're like, I cared about people today. It was too much. But I enjoy working from that perspective because it saves me a lot of time on the back end, right? It saves a lot of emotional grief on the back end. So by the time I'm done with my day, I have empathed a lot, and I have, emoted and taken on a lot of energy to be in service to my team. And so I have to disconnect. I have to have active rest. In the morning, I work out 6 days a week. Like, not to be boastful, but I have to do it. And I have to do it because that's the first brain dump. Like, I'm kind of just doing the mechanics of the workout, but my brain is just kind of going to different places, thinking about all the stuff. And then I do have coffee with my husband in the morning. So I tend to structure my day to where if I don't have school visits at the start of the day, I tend to do coffee, get my kids on the bus, get them out the house, and just really like have a cup of coffee with him. It could be 20 minutes, it could be 15. Sometimes when we're lucky, it's like an hour. But I tend to do that because it just helps my morning start well. Um, and one of my commitments to myself is also to find community as well. So I talked a lot about that at the very beginning. Superintendents, I just, for folks who are not in the seat who hear this, it's a hard pill to swallow, but we are a part of our communities, but we're not a part of our communities. And so it's a balance to be able to be in community with the teachers and families and students and community members you serve. But that's not necessarily the mirror back to you as a superintendent because they really don't know the job that you do and they don't understand it. And so I take my professional learning very seriously. I have a board chair and a board who are tremendously responsive to my desire to be in learning communities with people across the country. And so they allow me to go and do professional learning. And sometimes it's really, really formal. Like, this is the session, this is the workshop, etc. Sometimes, and I stress this to people, it is informal. Sometimes when you are unwound and you're sitting at a dinner with colleagues from across the country and you're just like getting a moment to reflect, you might lean over and say, hey, I'm really grappling with this problem. And they're like, yeah, me too, this is what we did and it worked really, really well. That's professional learning. That is building community, and that's wellness because you're able to be in community with people who understand and empathize with the work. So those are some of the ways that I take care of myself, but I sustain myself in this job because I've had some pretty kind of stressful moments over the last couple of years. And I think that those rituals and those habits and those commitments allow me to keep coming back, not just to come to work without stress, but to come back with a level of joy that you have to do this job.
It's interesting. I was talking with Susan Enfield, and she said, Mike, it's the way she describes it is you've got to separate the job from the work.
Yeah.
Some days the job is like,
Yeah.
but the work, that's what keeps us going. And I love that little difference in the way. And I'm so grateful for the nuggets that you just put out into the universe for folks that'll be listening, because I think those are really good things. And here's the thing that I love. They're healthy habits.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times, people will turn to unhealthy things to try and reduce their stress. And, it's unfortunate when those kinds of things happen. And then we hear about our colleagues are in the hospital for this and that. And, it can take a toll on you physically and emotionally. And I love that you said spiritually as well, is you got to have all of those things in alignment. Dr. Mullen, this has been an incredible episode. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
You're so welcome.
And
thank you for inviting me.
Before we go, I always like to ask one final question.
Yeah.
Dr. Mullen, what are you grateful for? What's on your gratitude list?
So I just came off the heels of something called the Courageous Leaders Retreat in New York, hosted by Dr. Lavelle Brown, superintendent at the city schools. And
Love
you know
Dr.
him,
Brown.
I know him, we love him.
Yes.
I would say I am so grateful for him. He is probably one of our more veteran superintendents in the country with a tenure of 15 years there.
Absolutely.
And I'm grateful for him, and I'm grateful for the community that he's curated. I've through him and his support, being in New York State. I'm only about an hour and a half north of him, and being in New York State, there is the like technical piece. I'm like, okay, what happens when the budget does this? And he's like, don't worry, do that. And then there's the adaptive piece of like, I am tired. This is a lot. And he's like, don't worry, it's gonna be okay. And talk to this person, talk to that person. And so I'm grateful for him, and I'm grateful for the people in our community who are superintendents, retired superintendents, aspiring superintendents. Um, and then I think more so, or not more so, but in addition to that, I'm really grateful for my board. And I don't think a lot of superintendents say it because a lot of superintendents can't say it. But I will, they're great people. They're great community members. And I don't say that to be fluffy or like get brownie points. They are great people and they show up and they just let me cook. Like they let me do the work. And they lean in when they need to, and they connect me to the community in ways that are really meaningful. And they give me great feedback, and I'm just really grateful for them because I feel like I really got lucky. We did as just a team, and so I'm grateful for my board and my chair. They're amazing people.
That is beautiful. Dr. Mullen, thanks again for being
Yeah.
a great guest on the show. Folks, this is the Superintendent's Hot Seat, and you've heard it from Dr. Barbara Mullen. Thanks so much.